What if I told you that there was a movie that was made by Spike Lee, which had an unbelievable plot and mostly was based on true facts, but the fictional part was actually Hollywood inventions? Well, that's the review about a movie that we're gonna do today called BlacKkKlansman from 2018. So, welcome to RevivalFlix, where we try to find some old and classic films and watch them again with today's lenses. And this time, it's not actually an old film, a classic film, since it's from 2018. But I also cover even new films, right? Last week I covered The Odyssey, but anyway, I'm into missed films. You know, this I would consider maybe a mist of mine, or weird ones. And also, but actually, this one actually has a connection to an old film, which I'm gonna talk about. Anyway, let's start off with the basic data. So, just as a backstory, so since the 80s, I was a fan of Spike Lee, but from 2000 or maybe 2010, yeah, let's put it to 2000. I've been kind of like outdated with the films, and that's why this was a mist of mine. I hadn't had much time, you know, like to update myself with movies and so on. But that's why I also started the channel, because I want to, you know, like become up to date with everything that I missed and so on. So and now I have a bit more time. And yeah, so let's start with the basic data. So 2018 in IMDb, which is my main source that I consult about filmography or ratings and so on, it's rated with 7.5, which I think it's extremely high actually for, you know, for an average movie. I consider this a very good rating. Anyway, it had 6 nominations for the Oscars, including Best Picture, Music, I think original music, original score, Best Directing, Best Supporting Role, which I actually agree with, but I'm going to expand more on that later. And Best Editing and Best Script, which won. Spike Lee won for the Best Adapted Screenplay. So I think it was like maybe his first big win in the Oscars. I'm not so sure, but anyway, let's move on. As I mentioned, it's a movie from Spike Lee. So it's actually a true story. It's based on a true story, and the facts are really unbelievable. Whoever is not familiar yet, I mean, I changed a bit recently how I do the review. So normally I would do everything without any spoilers. But then I received some comments, you know, saying, "Oh, it's hard to do without spoilers" and so on. So now I'm kind of like dividing a bit. So my main review is going to be without spoilers, but in the end, I'm going to give some quick comments with spoilers. So when I get into that section, don't worry, I'm gonna make sure everything is explicit when I get into that section, and you can drop out if you feel like it. Anyway, Spike Lee, whoever is not familiar with him, let me just, you know, talk about a little bit of how I became familiar with him back in the 80s. It was actually from a movie which was did a lot of success, especially with the critics, called Do the Right Thing. So that film it's a very good film. I think it's like it has all his Spike Lee's trademarks, you know. So I think it's a very good reference. Whoever is not familiar with his work. IMDb from 1989. IMDb rating 7.9. So anyway, I was looking at some of his filmographies, you know, just to remember some of the stuff that I had seen and some of that I had not, and maybe, you know, like put in my watch list. Anyway, that was a film that was done before Do the Right Thing, and whoever also is not familiar, what I like to do, you know, especially with IMDb, is like if a film does a lot of success and the director is not known yet, I like to watch, you know, like one of his movies like right before the success and one of his movies right after, you know, like just to see, oh, how come he got the chance, you know, like to direct this movie, and if he sustained, you know, his his quality, his directing quality. Anyway, she's gotta have it. It's from 1986, rated in IMDb as 6.8. I put this in the top in my watch list. I'm probably gonna make a review about this one if it makes sense. But anyway, continuing. So I watched. I remember watching like at the time, like do the right thing, and then right after he did a very good popular movie. It wasn't like so niched. So this was kind of like the decade, like the movies about the black culture was getting a lot of attention. So he was one of probably one of the most important figures in the directing scene, at that time, for this kind of niche, right? So then he did a movie called Jungle Fever. He had a kind of like a backstory linked, to the racial, conflicts and so on. But I consider this not so much like an activist movie. It was very like popular movie. It was with Wesley Snipes and so on. But I liked this movie very much because it gave like another flavor, about it. I thought it was really good. Then he did what I call his masterpiece, which is Malcolm X. This movie was like such an expectation at the time, to come out and so on. And I think he did a very well job. It was with Denzel Washington. And probably one of the movies, if not the movie, that kind of like put Denzel Washington like in the top of the list, of acting. I might be wrong. If anyone remembers another one that was done earlier than this one, it's from 1992. Please leave in the comments. I for sure I'm going to admit that I was wrong if that's the case. But anyway, Denzel Washington started in it, and also it had a participation in of the main character from the film that we're gonna review today, which is John David Washington. So you're probably already connecting the dots here, but I wasn't aware of this. I'm going to explain a bit later when I talk about the actor. But anyway, that was a funny discovery that I did just this week, but I'm sure many of you already know about this. But as I told you, I'm kind of like outdated, right? And I'm kind of trying to catch up. Anyway, so moving on. So I also noticed that he also had another good high-rated film with also Denzel Washington from '98 called He Got Game. I'm also putting this in my watch list, but it's not in the top there yet. But it's also highly rated in IMDb, 6.9, and also has one of my like my teenage crushes or whatever, called Mila Jovovich. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that name, but she played, I think it's The Fifth Element. It was a movie. I think it was back in the 90s. But she was gorgeous. I think she was from Yugoslavia or something like that. And it was with Bruce Willis. This movie was really fun. Anyway, there was also another one called Bamboozled from 2000, 6.7. Also put it in my watch list. I'm not sure if I'm gonna manage to watch all of these films, but there was also other ones that I found also interesting, like Inside Man from 2006, 7.6, very highly rated. I think I watched this one, but I looked at the pictures and so on. I couldn't really figure out if I had watched it or not. And then surprisingly, he had directed like a remake of Old Boy in 2013, but it didn't have a high rating, so it was 5.8. So just as for us to compare with, so the original one is from 2003, and in IMDb has a rating of 8.3. I gotta confess, I didn't watch yet Old Boy. I should have. It was already. I had already planned. To watch it. Everything was set up and whatever. But I think I started a couple of times, but couldn't, wasn't like in the, it wasn't in the right, I would say, arrangement for me to watch it. But anyway, this is also in the top of my list. And then actually, he did I wasn't sure about this. I knew that he had done some music videos, but then I like looking into his filmography and so on, he did really a bunch of music videos, a bunch of them. I'm going to like just name a few. So Grandmaster Flash, Public Enemy, Tracy Chapman, Prince, Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop Array. I'm not sure if you guys remember that one. But anyway, Michael Jackson. His career, in the music video, it's really like top notch. The one that he directed from Michael Jackson was "They Don't Really Care About Us," but it was not the Brazilian version. It was the prison version or whatever. And then actually he had Eminem, Kelly Rowland, which I'm a big fan of. And then he actually directed a music video from a very famous Brazilian artist here in Brazil called Seu Jorge. The name of the music, I think, is probably Arena Brasileira. So he's something. He's really something. So let's go to the actors. So one of the main reasons that I picked this movie, to review, it's when I was doing a review about The Creator. Maybe I'm gonna put this The Creator as a suggested video in the end. But anyway, so I was doing this review about The Creator, and he had an actor that I really, really loved. I actually became familiar with him in Tenet, which is John David Washington. Right. So while I was doing the review of The Creator, normally, like I do kind of like a superficial, research, in IMDb and see what the actor has done and whatever. So it was surprising that he had, worked with Spike Lee twice, right? So one in Malcolm X when he was just like a little kid or whatever. And then on this one, BlacKkKlansman, right? And the name kind of like attracted my attention. So I read a bit about the argument and so on. So I said, yeah, I gotta watch this, and kind of like hoping that this would be the film, that kind of put him out there, like with the great actors and so on. So kind of like, let me see what he's like, like before fame, So that was the main intention. However, doing a bit of research for this one specifically, I came to find out, which for me was like shocking, and I'm so dumb because I really wasn't aware of this, but I'm sure that most of you are going to be aware of this. He's actually one of the sons of Denzel Washington. So that's why he was like back when, one of the kids that said, I am Malcolm X and whatever in the Malcolm X film. So he's that one. So he has, I think, more than one child. I think there's another one that is also a director. And from his filmography, from John David Washington's filmography, I noticed that I think he worked with one of his brother. It was funny. It was funny to find that out. I was so surprised. It was actually nice. Anyway, just to remind about who he is. So as I mentioned, The Creator, Tenet, which is one of my favorite Chris Nolan's film. It's like maybe a hot take or an unpopular opinion, but I loved so much that movie. And he was also great in The Creator. Anyway, going on. So Amsterdam, from 2022, it's actually a movie that it has been I have seen some positive comments about it. I put it in my watch list. Monster, I also put it in my watch list. And then we had Love Beats Rhymes, right, from 2017. So it was before this film. It's not so highly rated, 5.4. However, it deals with like the music industry and so on. So I'm very curious to watch this film. And it's also with Method Man, which I also absolutely love. And then of course I think this may be the series that he rose up, as an actor. Ballers. I think it's a TV series, but I really wasn't familiar with him until I did the research about the creator and so on. I am going to try, to find out if I can watch this somewhere. Still, just to know what's it about and whatever. Yeah. So moving on to Adam Driver. So Adam Driver, this for me was the highlight from the film. Very, very good actor. Very good actor. I mean, he for those of you who are not familiar with the name, he played, I think, the son of Han Solo, right? So I think his name in the Star Wars franchise was Kylo Ren or something like that. So he appeared like in the three from Disney. So Star Wars 7, 8, and 9. So yeah, at that time, he was like in Star Wars, he was a strong character, I would say, but nothing. I didn't think he was like a great actor at the time, but like a peculiar, like figure, So, so in this film, I actually think he's a very, very good actor. So, just so you guys can remember the timeline. So this film is from 2018, Star Wars 7 2015, Star Wars 8 2017, and the last one 2019. So this was in between 8 and 9 episode and 9th episode. So yeah. So looking at his filmography, I noticed that he had done like a bunch of TV series and very actually high-rated films. So I also kind of, put some of them in my watch list. I'm really becoming a fan of his. So the Meyerowitz stories from 2017, 6.9. And this one is with Adam Sandler, Dustin Hoffman. So I'm curious to watch this one. The Men Who Killed Quixote. I mean, the title is not so great, The argument is also not so great, but it has an okay rating, 6.3 from 2018. And then, yeah, so these two I put in my watch list. I'll get back to you guys if it's worth it. And then we had Topher Grace, which is that figure from That 70s Show, appearing in this film. He was good. Well, it wasn't great, but he was like standard to good. And then we had actually, like some familiar faces appearing here and there. One of them was Corey Hawkins. I didn't know, like his name, but he did play a good part in as Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. So, yeah. So let's go about the review about the film itself. Just as full disclosure again, in the 80s I was a big Spike Lee fan, and also as I mentioned, I've been like outdated, right, with his recent work. So this film actually begins, of course, like right from the beginning we can see, like elements of Spike Lee's, aesthetic, especially, related to film, cinematography and so on. So I thought that was consistent. So this one, it's going to be a mixed review. So it's very hard for me to not like a movie. It's very hard for me to not like a movie. I'm very charitable, I would say, with films in general, because I respect a lot, the creative liberty of the artist and so on. I probably just walked out of the cinema maybe once in my lifetime, which was the John Travolta film that he played like an alien or whatever. Man, that film was so terrible. But anyway, sticking to the to the review here. So this one has mixed reviews, okay? So I'm going to talk about first about the positive aspects about it, and then I'm going to mention something that I really didn't like, but I also understand that he has the right to do so, right? Okay, so this, as you can imagine, it deals with, like the KKK and whatever, like racial conflicts and so on. No problem there. So it was, I think that, as I mentioned also before, there was a film that was done in 1966 called The Black Klansman. I think this is not a remake about that film. I think it's just a film. I mean, in the 1966, I think it's a film that it was done like based off the same story, the same true story. So the story is really unbelievable. You couldn't really imagine that this really happened. Uh, and uh, and I do think that he did a very good job with the script. Uh, well, okay, so it has like a very good unroll. It's like an unbelievable story. Like, so as I mentioned, but it has a very good unroll that it kind of like convinces you, that it could be possible, and it was possible because it was true. Um, so what I can say is, like, right from the start, is that the film was very, very good until like the middle the beginning of the ending, and I'm gonna explain why. So it had like, it built some awkward, like awkward scenes, awkward situations that leaves you like maybe, like a bit shocked and so on. And it also built like some uncomfortable dialogues, especially, like with certain words that we're not, accustomed to hearing anymore, and so on. So that was that was great. Another great aspect about it is, of course, the actor that I already mentioned, Adam Driver. He played kind of like two roles, because he was like undercover and so on, and you could see that it was very distinct. And I think they make like a very good they made like a very good chemistry between the two, John David Washington and Adam Driver. John David Washington was very good in this film, but I wouldn't say that he was like the highlight, but it was very good. Anyway, what okay, so again, with a positive aspect. So until the middle of the film, you could it had like a very good rhythm. It had that unbelievable, like plot and so on. It had like convincing connections within the films, the characters and so on, and also like the situations and so on. It had like touches of humor here and there. And now about the negative part. So towards the end, because this would be a film that I thought it was like a missed opportunity, but because it basically deals with one extreme, right, from the main subject here of the film, and another extreme which had kind of like a pass, it kind of tainted, like with light colors and so on. I without giving spoilers, I cannot say more about this, but my opinion is that Spike Lee, he missed an opportunity to maybe lead the audience, like to sympathize with both extremes, until a part where everything starts happening and so on. No, he didn't do that. He actually like kind of like mocked or stereotyped, one of the extremes, like very, I would say even childish, like, especially nowadays that we see a lot of things, going on, and we're more aware politically of everything that happens and so on. So what I'm saying is that after the middle of the movie, like towards the end, it kind of like took like a very explicit political position, but that's not the problem. I think anyone has the right to do that, right? But I think it would give like a greater value if you did that, like with and not greater value, but also greater effectiveness if you did that like in a subtle way, but that's not what he did. He kind of like turned around completely towards the end, and then I really think that like towards the end, something happened there towards the end, because not only that political aspect part of it kind of like took over, but also there were some scenes that were kind of like injected in the movie that it was completely disconnected with all the rhythm and style that the movie had, up until then. So I was surprised that this won the Oscar, like for, I mean, the script was good. The script was good, but I definitely, I gotta actually research what other films were like in the same category that he won, like just to be fair, about what I'm saying. But anyway, that would be my main criticism about the film. The explicit and unthought about, or not unthought about, but lazy, I would say lazy political activism that I found, like towards the end, and even like in the very end, like with the there were like some real world, like footages. There were some stuff there, that really throws you off, like what the film was being, the atmosphere that the film created, and everything that you had seen, in the film and so on. I mean, that the story itself, it would be already kind of like you would have killed it already, So that part, it was kind of like out of the context. I would say, even and I can safely say that the result that he got overall, if he had like an agenda or whatever, I would say it had probably a less effective message, propagation, if he hadn't done that, But anyway, I mean, he has his rights, to do that, and everyone has the right, like to also put in a political agenda, in a film or whatever. But I can even maybe mention one that had a very strong political agenda, which was Fahrenheit 9/11, right? But the way that I'm blanking out of the director now, but a very famous director, documentary director. But anyway, the way that he did that, and he's a very good filmmaker. The way that he did that, it was like so compelling that he didn't have to be like so explicit about like what he was against and whatever. He just laid out the facts, and man, that was enough, like for sure to move needles, around. But yeah, but other than that, I think this is worth, like until the middle, until right to when the film starts to wrap up, it's a great film. So if you're into Spike Lee, if you're into John David Washington, it would be a good pick. Also, if you like, like uncomfortable dialogues about racial conflicts, this is a very good one. And yeah, so let's go to the spoilers. So, spoilers parts, please drop out if you're not into spoilers. So as I mentioned, it has like it became like in the end, like kind of like a political propaganda piece, explicitly. So that was, in my opinion, like very, very badly done. Anyway, but what I gotta admit, like in terms of courage, from Spike Lee, is that he kind of like defended the police force, within that context. It was a subtle defense, but it was there. So at that time, 2018, let's remember that it was like in the hype of, everything that we saw happening on and whatever. So that was, I thought that was courageous. So the story is basically about an undercover cop that he infiltrates, he infiltrates a black political movement, but also the KKK. But the infiltration actually is done by two cops. So one is in the phone, and one is actually present, because I mean, like John David Washington probably couldn't pass, as a white person in person. So then that's where Adam Driver comes in. And so just the argument there by itself, is already great. And based on true facts, based on true story, this was fun. Anyway, So as I also mentioned, like right in the end of the no spoilers section, there were some parts of the film that was kind of like disconnected from the overall flow of the film. As a concrete example, like right in the end, like there's like it's supposed to be this climax, about John David Washington and Patrice, which is his partner there. So a knock in the door, and then they all pull their guns. I mean, where did Patricia, like, why did she need to pull a gun, So then the way that they moved, like towards, like the window, and they watch, like the burning, the cross burning and whatever. That was completely. I'm not even saying about why that scene was there. I'm saying that how that was done, like technically and so on, it was completely out of the context, like the full atmosphere from the film. That really threw me off a bit. Not only like that, like the explicit like propaganda piece, and the propaganda piece that I'm talking about is not the message about the film itself. That was very well done, by the way. It was like in the end, there was like speeches, like from Donald Trump and whatever. I don't want to, like turn this into a political side, kind of things. But I mean, the way that he put that there, and then mashed with, I think there was some riots going on. I think it was Charlottesville, right? Charlottesville. And then he put like live footages, but the group that was organizing, like the Charlottesville riots was Black Lives Matter. And then afterwards, like recently, I mean, we found out, like a lot of suspicion, about how the movement was funded and whatever. So that's why it's kind of like risky, like to build such an explicit propaganda piece into a movie. It kind of like hurts your credibility. But again, I think everyone has the right to do so if you have, like no public funding and whatever. But I think that if he had left that out, and again done the balance, like between the two movements, because one of the movement was, like the Black Rights movement, like in the 60s or whatever 70s, and then the re-emergence of the Ku Klux Klan, with I think Dave Duke or something like that, which was a real political figure and so on. If he had stirred his audience, like to kind of like sympathize, with both extreme, both extreme political movements, right until a point where things happen, I think that would be like much more impactful and even effective, because it would kind of like make the audience feel awkward, the audience feel like, like lost or maybe guilty or whatever, but that didn't happen. So right from the middle on, he started portraying, like this underground, rooted KKK movement as, like very stereotypical and dumb and whatever, So yeah, that would be my main criticism. But other than that, the beginning on the movie until the middle, I mean, a top-notch movie, a top-notch Spike Lee movie. And yeah, I'm gonna watch the other ones, and for sure I'm going to at least one or two. I'm going to be back and do a review about it. And yeah, for now that's it, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.